Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So we got another experiment for you guys, and it's something we've done probably 3 years ago. And that is fun with wheels with different items. So let's get started. Alright, so if you've been a follower or subscriber for a very long time, roughly 3 years ago, we did this several times in different variations, but I guess it's time to finally come back to it and try several different types of rotor wheel types to see how well they can potentially function. So we obviously built out the most ugliest, boxy, large grid motorized vehicle that we can, and of course it's the rotor wheel style and not what we've done once, which is using a wheel suspension with a mod to connect other things to it. So we went back to the old style and did this. So we have several iterations of it, of getting whatever I could find to make as circular as possible. Obviously, not the most circular thing as you see here, because this is a straight line right down here, and then it curves out a little bit. So we've done something like this before with large blocks. So we used basically a light armor block with this round block to do something like that previously, because you could basically build out the same thing like that, right? So you put in like a cross shape here or plus shape here, put around it here, something similar to that, right? And then that's how we get that to maneuver a little bit and drive. But of course, it's not the best thing to do when it comes to the rotors, because there's a limit in speed and everything like that. So we did several iterations, as I mentioned. So this here is with the curved panels here, which is roughly the same thing as that, to be honest. But we're gonna test it out anyways. And then we have this one here. Once again, roughly the same thing with the curves, but it gives it a little bit different of a design here. And of course, we don't have to leave it open like that. We could close it out, but I left it open just to see how it can function. Then we decided to go with these new turbines. That's the twin-bladed wind turbines, to see if that works out. Probably not. And then we have some newer design windows here. So that is the bay windows. So using the bay windows to make it more curved, as you see here, it's more or less an octagon shape. So that could work. It's smaller than the others, than these here. So it might work out pretty well, potentially. Let's see how it goes. And then, I don't know why we've never done this before, but put in some hydrogen. And we're in creative mode, so that's why I added a little bit of hydrogen in there. Very dangerous, but let's see how that works. And lastly, some antenna dishes, just for the fun of it, and see how that kind of works. We put a parachute hatch here because we have problems landing it down, but we have a bit of a solution for that. All right, so let's start with this one. Let's see how well this one kind of rides. So basically, I'm just gonna copy it, paste it down, and just slowly bring it down, basically. Perfect. All right, so rotor wheels operate in a really odd way, as some of you may know. So basically, is one rotation going this way. So the right hand side, if you go increase velocity, it rotates this direction, right? So that's forward for us in this side. But on the left hand side, the forward or increased velocity rotates this way. So that is going backwards. So basically, it's a counterclockwise rotation when we're increasing velocity. So obviously, what I did is group them: right side, left side, left side. So this is increased velocity, and this is decreased velocity to go clockwise. So that's how it's set up here on my toolbar. So you see 1 and 2, that is left and right. So left is decrease, right is increase. And then to stop it or go backwards, 3 and 4 is same thing, but the opposite. So increase velocity for left side and decrease for the right side. So with that done, we can hit 1 and 2 to go forward ever so slowly. So this is 3 RPM, so it's really slow, as you can see here. Yeah, basically 1.3 meters per second, so it's not much at all. But if we really wanted to do a turn, we can stop one end by hitting 4 to balance it out, and that's how you see is turning. It's kind of like a tank-like thing in a way. But we don't really care too much about turning, to be honest. We're going to care more about going forward. So from testing previously, I know if we go fast immediately, everything's gonna break. So we're gonna slowly do this, basically, and hope we don't get destroyed by a tree right in front of us. So basically, we are going 2.5. Let's keep going. We are now going at 3, 4, and here comes the crazy sounds. Here's 5 meters per second, 6 meters per second. We're not breaking yet, so that's good. 7 meters per second. Bump that up. We're going 8, close to 9, and we're just randomly turning a little bit. So this style of wheel kind of works. I mean, obviously not going to use it. There's no practicality with this at all. So there's that. So slowly increasing this, and it's working out pretty well, as you can see. Not a problem with it breaking. So we're at the max now. So 30 RPMs. And that max speed we get, close to 13 meters per second. It blinked there for a second. And this one's working out pretty well. It's not it's not breaking, as you see here. It is a little bit rocky and moving. So if you want to travel 13 meters per second on a very, very rocky large grid rover, here's how to do so. All right, we can keep this thing moving and running, but why not just stop it? Oop. So there you go. I slowed it down a little too fast, and it decided to break, which is fine. We'll just get rid of that because we don't need evidence of it. We were testing this one, but we'll get rid of this one as well. You didn't make sure you didn't see that. All right, so the next one is this one here, which is roughly the same concept, really, except that the panels is more shown out there like that. So we can just do this. Ooh, okay, that didn't work out as planned. A little random how it breaks and everything like that. So I found that out the hard way when I was messing around with how to drop some of these. So same concept, everything's pre-built the same way with the rotors. So we go increase speed. Let's see how this kind of cooperates. So bulletproof glass or windows use bulletproof glass, so it might hold a little bit better than just panels and steel plates potentially. But we'll see. I mean, panels don't use much steel plates, so there might be a weak point here. But I think if we slowly increase the rotors, we shouldn't have a problem like before and try to grab out that 13 meters per second sweet spot. I know if I increase it too fast, that's when we're probably going to run into issues. So far so good. It's not as bumpy. I mean, still bumpy, but not as bumpy, it looks like. It gives it a little bit more of a curvature, but it's also more space. It's not like a ice skate before, which is a thin line that we just had before on there. But as you can see, we are getting a little bit more bumpy now. So I guess the more speed you pick up, the more bumpy it is. It hasn't broke yet, so that's a good thing. Oh, hit 13 meters per second, a little bit higher. So this seems to be moving along a little bit better than those windows, actually. We're getting close to an average of 13. Yeah, we didn't see those numbers before on the other one, and this is not as bumpy. So I actually like this one. Not too bad. All right, let's slow this thing down if we can. There you go. That stops that, and yeah, not too bad. I'm pretty sure if I hopped in there, give it all it's got up front. Actually, no. That's surprising. Oop, there you go. Now it broke. Was kind of surprising that didn't break initially, but eventually it will. So there's that. All right, let's go to the next iteration. Again, it's pretty much windows, and it's using these kind of curved window pieces, which is called the round window inwards. Obviously, we could just throw in some more windows on the outside or inside. Can I? It's a little hard to do it right here, but if you throw one like that, that's how you cover it up to make it full wheel. But we're gonna leave it exposed. But I wonder if I did close it up, it'll probably be a little bit better in terms of stability and not breaking everything like that, right? Potentially, right? So everything's connected this way. So that makes it look, wow, more or less kind of rounded, but not really. But yeah, let's give that a shot. Just make it a little bit more stable, a little bit more sturdier as well. And now we got some weird windowed wheels on here. Of course, we're doing the same thing. So we're going to do a slow crawl initially. See how that operates. All right, so that gets squared up a little too much towards the bottom. The panel version before was a little bit, it was less bumpy. Ooh, this is crazy. This did not work out at all, as you can see. It just fell right off. Okay. Another problem with this is that what I added just before made added a little bit more weight as well. So maybe we shouldn't have that there, and see how that works. So it's kind of like the panel version right here. I mean, it's the same thing roughly. Just gives it a little bit more rounded here until this point. But I actually do see a flaw in here because once you get to this point, it's all flat. So we need to solve for that if we're going to use this type of wheel system. I mean, again, who in the right mind is going to use this type of wheel system anyways? This is just for a fun little test for no apparent reason. But I think if we could add... Can we add more to this here? I don't think we can, right? If we make it add into it there to round it out more, then that would make sense. But I don't think it's going to allow us to do that. Yeah, I don't think we're going to find a block to be able to do something like that. Because it's not rounded whatsoever right in here. That's the reason why it was kind of falling apart there. And falling apart fairly easily. So we're going to... Oof. I dropped it a little bit too hard, but should be okay. All right, let's go. Let's not be too impatient here and slow crawl. Yeah, it's really flat once it gets to that point. So more or less you were riding on square blocks with a little bit of curvature, which is not that great. Very bumpy. Very bumpy. Yeah, this is not going to work out. That style is a no-go. All right. Now a tricky one. Turbines. Twin turbines. This one, I think, is more or less not going to be easy to do because I'm surprised the turbine's actually spinning right now. But yeah, to drop it, we have to do a slow drop so it doesn't hit the ground too hard. Is the biggest problem. And right this moment, it is actually a station, so we got to change that. All right, that's nice fall. Okay, we're good there. Perfect. I think this should do it. Yes. So we are on our twin turbines, and because it's not a station, obviously the turbines aren't going to spin, but we're going to spin it with our rotors. All right, so let's see how this operates. So far at this speed, nice and smooth. Not bouncing anywhere, so that's good. Let's increase the rotors. This is actually pretty smooth somehow. We're rarely getting any bumps. I'm actually gliding over these potholes too. Minor movement there. All right, this one is actually surprising. 7 meters, 8 meters. We're at 18, 21 meters RPMs. We're gonna hit this tree. Hopefully it doesn't break anything. All right, we might. Yes, we just broke something. That is not good. Let me slow this thing down really quick. And that broke, so that's not good. I need to get a welder here if I can. I'm just gonna fix that up. And we need to cut the tree if we can. Obviously, a welder's not gonna do it. We have a grinder though. So we'll take that out. And let's get back into this. Yeah, it looks good so far. Let's do... Well, if I copy it, it's gonna be a little hard to drop it. It can't touch the green parts of the grid. Then it's gonna end up getting stuck. Ooh. So it is acting like it's kind of rounded here. So you see here, a little bit. I can't walk through it, but it's also just floating from the ground. But anyways, only reason why I copied it was so I can just speed up the RPMs on the rotors as quickly as possible and see what happens. So wow, right there, quickly to 30 RPMs, and that's looking good. And I'm able to turn it right there. This is surprising, very surprising, how smooth this is running. It's a little bit on a hovercraft-like thing, as you see here. But yeah, I am actually surprised that this is actually working really smooth as a rotor wheel type system. Not bumpy whatsoever, as you see here. And yeah, it's just like a magic carpet type of gliding that we're having here too. So wow, very nice. All right, if we stopped it really quickly, oh, I think we are. There we go. Yeah, stopping really quick is not too bad. It's gliding a little bit too. Yeah, that is surprising how well that works. I'm gonna increase both sides opposite, and you see it'll spin that way. That's interesting. Yep. All right. So once again, very surprising how smooth that was. Was definitely not thinking it would be smooth, but hey, that's why we gotta try these things sometimes, just to see what happens. So yeah, that was a nice one. So this one's more octagon-like, so it does have these little flat spots. So it might not perform as well as our turbines, just now the twin turbines, but it might be decent. So let's just see what that's like. That's super, super low to the ground, which are probably better off with like half blocks or less lengthy on the rotor wheel pieces, but we're just gonna use a very basic type of rover anyway. So here we go. Increase it slowly. A little bit on the rocky side, but it's not that bad. It's equivalent to the panels that we had up there before. The light armor panels. I mean, we did heavy armor panels probably be even better, but Alright, so this is working out okay. Bit rocky, but not as bad. Because it's smaller, so it's not going to have this big increase in a like this bump or hump or whatever it's called. I'm gonna walk right through that. Alright, we're maxed out. The only thing is because it is smaller with RPMs maxed out, that does also equate to slower speeds. So if it's like a faster wheel, a bigger wheel, it would definitely move a little bit faster in this case. And only because the whole thing is not gripping to the ground, I guess, right? Actually, that statement doesn't really make too much sense, but it does in a way. But we are popping up and down a little bit, and the grip is from the corners. But it is not too bad. It's not the smoothest thing in the world like the turbines, the twin turbines, and you wouldn't think that would have worked out, but it did. But as you see here, it's a nice little crawl, a little rocky, but it could work. All right, next up, I don't know why we never done this one. I mean, obviously there's that. These are been more default type of items since the beginning. I'm gonna try to see if I can place this out the ground, touching the hydrogen's grid section. I think that's good enough. We'll do that, and looks like this is a station. Oh no, it's not. It's a ship. So it's definitely on the ground, so that's the problem. Okay, so if I just drop it down. Oop, that didn't work. If I drop it down, that could happen. So that's the biggest problem when it comes to the hydrogen tank version of these things. But I mean, that's expected. I didn't think it would actually add hydrogen in there, but it added it because of creative mode. But we'll drop this, let that break. Oof. Okay, so this is gonna get a little bit rough on trying to get this thing to the ground as much as possible. Alright, that worked somehow. Alright, so our tanks are not completely intact, which is fine. We'll fix that up. All right, that's good. That's good. So it's just that one that hit really, really hard. Everything else seems to be fine. All right, so I think in this case, we're going to have to do a extremely, extremely slow crawl. So large hydrogen tanks. Here we come. And I mean, it's not the roundest thing in the world. It could have been, but it's not. But once it hits those ports, that's where it gets a little bumpy. And it's acting similar to the bay windows, as it's not a really, really heavy bump. Well, once we increase the low power, it seems like it. But we're matching speed with it with the bay windows now, but we still have a long ways to go. So 18 RPMs. We're at 21 RPMs, going about 9 meters per second. Still holding up pretty good. I mean, what if the tanks were empty? Would it have been performing a little bit better? Potentially, I don't know. Uh-oh, we are on fire, so that's not good. So if we fix it, that could help out. Ooh. Nope. It does not like 21 RPMs. So obviously we knew that that was a bit dangerous because it has hydrogen in it and the potential of blowing up. So definitely not a feasible thing to do. All right, so last but not least, the antenna dish. Now this one for sure gave me the most trouble to try to get off the ground. So we are going to have to attempt that now. So that's why I have that parachute hatch there, but I think I figured out a decent way to drop it without the parachute hatch. So we can do that. We drop the bottom one here. Oop. Of course, I think we have to change this to a ship. But before we do that, I'm just going to deploy this for just in case. I'm probably not going to do anything because we're not that high up anyways. Oh, nope. This is not good. That didn't work out. The grid is so big that even putting it up there like that low, it was touching the ground. So that's a problem, right? That looks good. Let it. Ooh. That worked out pretty good. All right, so obviously you can tell from when I said ooh. It's a bit of an issue when it comes to the antenna dishes when I tested out a little bit earlier trying to drop it down. Every time it dropped, it would just explode, much like the hydrogen tank. So these are very sensitive things. All right, so these are fairly rounded, not floating. Well, there's a little bit of floating on the ground, but you would expect this to work out just as well as a turbine, I think, right? Because it's pretty rounded. But as you see there, the wind turbines or the twin turbines seems to be one of the best bets for a rotor wheel type system. But for some reason, an antenna dish, it does not act like a really round thing, does it? You see it's bouncing back and forth, back and forth. That's just weird for a round antenna dish. And we're probably going to break really soon from the tree, I guess. You see here, that's very, very sensitive. But yeah, these are large grid versions of it. I mean, we could play around with small grid versions. But hope you guys did enjoy that experiment. And it seems to be that the twin turbines are the best versions of this random rotor wheel type system by playing around with different blocks and seeing they kind of work as wheels. But of course, let me know down in the comments below. I may have missed a few newer blocks. So it's been, again, 3 years. So there's a lot of DLCs, updates with different materials and blocks. So those are the main ones that I could find to play around with. But of course, if you know other blocks that are fairly rounded and you think can perform just as well as the twin turbine or better, drop a comment down below. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe. And as I mentioned before, feel free to drop a comment in terms of what block I should try as well. And of course, feel free to just say hi. With that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.